I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it.
Knock yourself out there, Mark Milley. General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This guy, can't believe him. Can't believe he still has a job, especially after Afghanistan, especially after apologizing for being with President Trump. Remember that? We played it earlier in the show. Well, take a look at this. In the Washington Times just a couple of days ago, why General Mark Milley should be court-martialed, the most egregious examples of treasonous subversion by a commissioned officer since Benedict Arnold, by Chris Farrell. Chris is from Judicial Watch. He's also a former U.S. Army counterintelligence officer. Sir, great piece and welcome to Newsmax. How are you?
Great to be with you. Thanks very much.
So it's music to my ears. I think this guy is the pits, but actually court-martialing him, you think there's enough evidence out there to do that? Make the case if you would.
The evidence is there and it's indisputable. A year ago, September 2021, Bob Woodward publishes his book Farrell. And although I find Woodward usually loathsome, nonetheless, he documents Milley's contacts with his communist Chinese counterpart. And he has transcript quotations from Milley that Milley admits to doing. And Milley cooperated with the reporters because he gave them the back and forth transcript with his Chinese counterpart, where he tells the Chinese general, hey, I'll give you a heads up if we're going to attack you. It's outrageous just at face value. And the fact that he's admitted it a year ago and nothing's been done to him. Meanwhile, Judicial Watch has gone to court to obtain those same transcripts of that call. And the Pentagon stonewalling us. They forced us in a position to go and sue to get these transcripts of this call, while he simultaneously is cooperating with Woodward, leaking information out and assisting these guys in writing a book that attempts to make him look like he's some kind of hero. That's compounded by another book coming out at the end of this month, where there's even worse actions on Milley's part, more reckless behavior, where he's insubordinate to the president, uses grossly foul language to defy him, and then threatens his staff and says, well, if you want to court-martial me, go ahead. The stuff he's done is so far off the scale. An Article 32 hearing should be impaneled. If the threshold is met, he should be court-martialed.
I think you're onto something here. By the way, I'll point out that the insubordination, which I do believe he's guilty of, I think he never really told off President Trump to his face. He was always kind of trying to trip him up behind the scenes, and he wrote that nasty letter, but didn't have the nerve to send it, right?
I agree. He was very cowardly in that regard because he'd smile to the president and make assurances to him, but then run around and connive and double deal and backstab him. In this latest book, they produce a draft letter of resignation that Milley never signed and never submitted. This is how two-faced and conniving this guy is.
Right.
He gives the authors a draft letter that condemns Trump, is full of all kinds of vitriol. But in fact, Milley never had the spine or the guts to actually sign it and submit it. But he puts it in a book to try to make himself look like a hero. This is really loathsome, cowardly behavior.
The worst, that apology, I wish Donald Trump had fired him on the spot for that. Let me ask you something, though. Let's say Donald Trump comes back as president. Milley will, in one way or the other, be long gone. He'll have retired or fired or whatever. Is there a mechanism, and I only have a few seconds, where he could be recalled to active duty for punitive measures? I've heard of that happening before. There is a mechanism for that to happen, or I could be wrong.
No, in essence, general officers never really retire. They retire for pay purposes, and they go off and play golf, but general officers are always subject to recall. So that could be done.
Chris Farrell, Director of Investigations and Research for Judicial Watch and a former U.S. Army counterintelligence officer. Sir, many, many thanks. To be continued, okay?
Great to be with you. Thank you.
You bet. We'll be right back.